They have about almost 4 pounds of carrots. And I'm shredding them on this old hand crank shredder, which I can't do holding the camera. But you get the idea. It works well. I have almost 4 pounds of carrots. I have this old short work of those carrots. And these are big carrots too. Look at the size of them. Huge. Out of my garden, of course. So I have a plastic bucket, and I'm going to have so many vegetables in these 2 buckets. I put everything in here. I've weighed all the vegetables, and then I'm going to do the calculation for salt. It'll be 3% salt by the weight. So if I have 100 grams, then I'll have 3 grams, 3% of 100 of salt. This is the part where I put these on, because otherwise I can't see. I have all these onions. I have to weigh them now. And then I'm going to put them through here with a coarser, with this blade. It's a little coarser, so they're more sliced, and try to shred them in this. This will make a ton of juice. Safety goggles on. Let's see how this goes. Doing a pretty good job. Garlic's next. This is from my garden, of course. All my vegetables are from my garden. With the exception of ginger, I'll be using. So, this is kind of the most time-consuming part, peeling all these. Here's how I do it. I don't know if there's an easier way. You just smack them a couple times. It loosens up the skin. And it comes off pretty easy. See? So I have to peel all these garlics. Lots of garlic. Probably get another head too. Here's some more. These are kind of the ones left over that I didn't plant this fall. They're a little too small. But I have a whole box of other garlic too. Okay, let's do the garlic weigh-in. And we have 319 grams, or let's see, what does that say? $319 grams. 11.25 ounces. Put the finer grater back on for the garlic. That's pretty good. As long as you don't stick your fingers in this. Into the grinder. This is an old-fashioned one. It didn't have any safeguards on it. So you got to be careful. So here's what I got so far. Carrots, onions, garlic. I added them up here. 4,000 grams times 3%. That's 120 grams of salt I'm going to use. So I weighed out. Here's the 120 grams of salt weighed out. I'm just using some coarse you know, non-iodized kosher salt. And I'm going to put this in with the carrots, onions, and garlic just to get them started. Okay, here's the carrots, onions, and garlic in the 5-gallon bucket. Put in the salt. Just get it pre-mixed. It's easier to do when it's smaller amount. Now when I get the radish, I'm doing the radishes next and the cabbage. And that takes up a lot of space, so I'll have to do that in a separate bucket. But this will start to get the juice out of these vegetables, and it's easier to mix in now. So I'm hoping to make like a whole bucket full or half a bucket, so I'll have like, these are 5-gallon buckets, so I'll probably have like 3 gallons made, I hope, or more. I'll probably make 2 batches, 1 batch today, and I have a lot of cabbages and a ton of radishes left. Here's the ginger. That's how much ginger I'm going to use. I just use however many, whatever I feel like using. The only thing I do is I weigh it so I get the right salt proportion. And I'm going to grate this up. This is the finer mesh. And then I'll squeeze the juice out of this ginger pulp that I get from this. Sweet rice, flour, cooked with a lot of water to make a real thick porridge. You have to stir it often. It's been cooking for about 15-20 minutes. It's almost ready. Okay, I'm going to take this. I cooked earlier. This was a sweet rice porridge. Took sweet rice and I ground it into a flour. And then I cooked it slowly, stirring a lot. Now it's cooled down. I had a little salt in there. So I'm going to put the ginger in there. I'm going to take the ginger. I just grate it and squeeze the juice in there. Because I don't want all these fibers in there. And then I'm going to put some chili powder in there. Give it the classic red color. You know what might work for this is my lemon juice thing. That sort of works. So let me get all this juice out of here. All the ginger juice. And then I'm going to mix in the chili. So this is a crimson Lee pepper. It's a mild hot pepper, and I grew these, and I took the seeds out. I sliced them up thin and dehydrated them without the seeds. And then I took the strips and I ground them in the blender. So I got this powder here. Nice red powder. So this is going to give it a little bit of heat. It's not super hot. It'll give the kimchi its classic red color. So I have, I don't know, a cup in there maybe. I'm going to put most all this in there. So I have another jar full for my next batch, see. So I guess I'll put all this in there. And then I'll put a little bit of hotter chili in, just for a little extra heat. And this is kind of some Thai chilies. These are super hot, so I won't put a lot of this in. That'll probably do it. That'll give it some heat. And I'll mix all this in here. And then I'm going to take this porridge and mix it in with these carrots and chili's getting me choked up a little bit. I'll mix this in with the onions and the garlic and the carrots. And then that will all get mixed in with the next step, which is going to be the cabbage and the radishes. So it's just kind of easier to do it now. And this is kind of sticky, but this is coming out pretty good. So just about the right consistency I'd want to see. Sometimes I make it too thick. So that's it, and I'm going to mix it in with the other stuff. So here I have that mix, the sweet rice porridge. You can see this is already going down in volume as the salt works it. So I'm going to mix all this in. And then this is going to get mixed in with the cabbage and radishes, which is the next step. Here's the cabbages I'm going to be using. I have Napa. It was a hybrid I grew. I get all slow to bolt varieties. And then this one is a longer or narrower, you can see. This is a Michili type cabbage. It's long and they're both very solid. And then I'm going to put in this pak choy too, because I have one of these. And I have some other cabbages too, besides these three. So I'm going to clean them up and then weigh them up and find out what I get. So I'll probably have about 2 of these. One bigger than this one, and this for all the other vegetables I put in already. Okay, now I'm going to cut up the cabbage. And I just cut it up pretty coarse. You don't want to cut it up too fine, then your kimchi will get too mush. So this is about right, except for maybe these end chunks here. I'll cut up a little finer. But other than that, that's pretty good. Same for this big stuff. So you can still use this part. That's maybe a little rough. It'll all be good when it ferments. And same with this. You don't want to cut it up too fine. Cut it up about like this is good. And if you want, you can slice these in half. When the salt gets in there, it's all going to take this down. And it'll get much smaller in volume. But I'm going to have to use a new bucket for now because it's so bulky. One time I shredded this real fine and my kimchi wasn't very good. It was just kind of mush. You want to have some texture in there. This skinny Michili cabbage is dense. And the pak choy, these have all been through a freeze and a frost, so they're sweetened up pretty good. Cabbage and the pak choy. The pak choy is super sweet. I tasted the stalks. And this too, I'm going to cut this up pretty coarse. There's a lot of moisture in these stems, so a lot of liquid will come out of those when they get the salt. It's nice having the pak choy in there. It adds a little bit of green. I have made kimchi just using pak choy before and no cabbage, and that's really good too. This is super sweet. Okay, I did the calculations on the cabbage. 3.5 pounds. 2 cabbages, the other one was 2.8 pounds. 2 pak choys. I opted to use 2 pak choys and took one of the cabbages out. So 1.9 and 3 pound for the pak choy. And I added them all up in grams here. 51.91, so 155 grams of salt for all that cabbage. And I weighed it up, and somebody's probably going to ask me how much it looks like in a cup. So it's not even a quarter cup. I don't know if you can see, it's under 2 ounces in the cup if you measured it that way, but I don't. I do it by weight. So I'm going to salt this cabbage, and I have some more in the bowl here, which I don't want to put it all in the bucket, so I'll do some in here. Doesn't seem like a lot of salt. I'll have to recheck my calculations, but it should be right. So I'll mix these in, and then they'll draw the juice out, and they'll go down quite a bit. So I'll let them sit for an hour or so, and it should be the juice coming out, and then I can combine them with the carrots and the onions in one bucket. I still have to do the radishes though. So the radishes, this purple one, these are big. This is a Bora King. It's a type of Korean radish. It's real pretty. And then this long one, I have some bigger than this, but this is more like a daikon type. But the variety is called April Cross. And then this is another type of Korean radish. I don't know what it's called. My friend Win Lee sent me the seeds, and it was all in Korean. So they get this kind of shape. And then this is either one she sent me or it's a Thai bok. They almost look identical. They get this kind of shape with the green on the top. And you can see it split a little bit, but should be good. And these have gone through frost too, so they should be real sweet. I just did a taste test of all these, and this one, the funny looking shaped one, this is the sweetest. It's really sweet. None of them have much of a bite. This is probably next, and this one's probably the next sweetest. They're all pretty good. They're all mild, and this would be the last sweet one. I think that's how it was, but I'm gonna cut all these up, or I'm going to weigh them. Then I'm going to use my slicer and cut them up. And then salt them. And this is what, these radishes really makes kimchi. So you can see I'm going to use quite a bit. I'm going to use all these in the batch. This slicer works great for the radishes. Perfect. See those? Those will be, when they're in the kimchi, they're just excellent. Perfect way to slice them up. I weighed all those radishes. I came up with 7 pounds. And that's the last ingredient for the kimchi, unless I forgot something. I think I got it all. So as soon as I get these all shredded up, I'm going to add the salt to them, which I weighed out already. It's this amount. And then I'm going to put that in and let them pull the juice out of the radishes. And then when everything gets the juice pulled out in the buckets, I combine them all, mix them all together. And that's pretty much it. Then you just wait for it to ferment. So this is how much this whole big giant bowl full of radishes shredded up. And here's the salt. I'll put the salt in there, mix it up, and let it. A lot of juice will come out of these radishes. So they'll go down in volume probably half or 2/3. So I thought I'd just check in. These are the first things I mixed up. It's been I don't know, since I started, an hour or two. And these you can see there's a lot of These have gone down quite a bit. They're really wet. You can see all the juice on the bottom. And then the cabbage has only been about half hour, 45 minutes. But you can see the moisture starting to come out. Cabbage and bok choy. And this is going down too. So I'll give it another half hour, 45 minutes. Then I'm going to mix these two together. These two get all mixed in, and then the radishes too. I just did the radishes so they have a ways to go before they go down in volume. This might be the biggest batch of kimchi I ever made at once. I probably made half this much before. Well, I'm waiting for the salt to work on those vegetables. I'll walk out and take the compost out. Here's where the cabbage was growing, where I've harvested the cabbage from, and the bok choy. There's still a few things left in the garden here. Brussels sprouts. And there's the horseradish. The cold really knocked them down the other night. A few other greens. Oh, and the kale. Looks like the kale got pretty well zapped. It got pretty cold. Anyway, here's the compost pile. And this is all the clippings from the day. The onions, the garlic, some of the cabbage. It wasn't too much, but it can decompose for next year. In case anybody's wondering if I have enough for another batch of kimchi, yes. Look at all these radishes. I'm sure I won't use all those. There's a lot of them. And then I have in here. Here's all the. Down here is lots of cabbages left. And bok choy. I have some kale in here. It's in an old chest freezer that isn't on. It's not plugged in, but it keeps them all pretty good. Keeps them from freezing now. So plenty for another batch of kimchi if I want to make another one. Okay, here's what I'm going to do to get it mixed up. You can see the cabbage is gone and the bok choy has gone down about half. Carrots is pretty much down. It's all liquid. And the radishes here, they're all wet too. There's liquid at the bottom. Wait a bit. So what I'm going to do is put half of the radishes in here, and then half of the cabbage in here, and then the other bucket will have half and half, and then I'll be able to mix. There'll be enough room to mix the carrots in. And when I get them all mixed up, carrots and onions and that other mix, when I get all those mixed up, I can put them all back in one bucket. Okay, I got half of the cabbage and radishes all mixed up in this bucket, half in the next bucket. I'm going to put half of the carrot and onion and garlic mix in there. And half in the other bucket. And get them mixed up. It's the easiest way to handle it when you got so much. Much easier to mix it up this way. If you were trying to do it all in one step before all the liquid came out, it's really hard to do. There, I'll mix up the other one, and then I can put them all back into one bucket. And then what I'm going to do is put what I do is put a plate on top, and the plate will hold it down, and then I put a bottle of water on there to give it a little weight, and then I just put on the lid. Tight lid, I don't need any hole in it. The gas will get out, or I can burp it. Burping's when you just take the lid. Well, this lid has a hole in it, but you just, if you had the lid on tight, you just every once in a while pull up and release the gas. So, but I find you don't need the airlock and all that. I haven't needed that. Okay, it's all done. It's all mixed up in one, you can see. And it's all, plenty of brine there now. Plenty of liquid has come out to cover it all up. And that's all, everything. It's all mushed down. It'll go down a little bit more as that cabbage and bok choy breaks down, but that's about 2/3 of the bucket full. And this is a, I think it's like a 5-gallon bucket. So that's a pretty big batch of kimchi. So what I'm going to do is put a plate on here like that. See? Push it down. That pushes all the vegetables down mostly. And then I put a jar of water that isn't going to leak like that to weight it down. Then I can put the lid on now. It'd be nice if the jar was up that way. I've used plastic bags of water, put double plastic bags in, but they seem to leak over time. We don't want that extra moisture in there, or water. So that's it. Now I'm going to let it sit in a cool place for probably like two or 3 months, a couple months anyway. I'll probably check it a few times maybe, but usually I just let it sit somewhere in the corner where it's nice and cool. You know, 50 degrees would be ideal, but warmer is okay. And then later on in 2 or 3 months, I'll take some out and I'll put it in jars. It's good to have jars with plastic lids. And then I put it all in the refrigerator. So I'll put in either smaller jars or quart jars or whatever. And you're wondering if I can eat all this? Yes. I can go through this much kimchi before next summer when I can make more, or next fall. I really get to like it in the spring. The springtime's really nice to eat kimchi. It's really good because I don't know, towards the end of winter you're tired of a lot of the other food, and you can just make some pasta and put some kimchi in with it and some baked tofu or some beans or something. It makes a great quick meal, and it's got all the goodness of summer in there. See, I got the nice orange color to it, like the classic kimchi. I know if you watch Mangchi, I think that's her name. She's on YouTube. She's a real popular Korean cook, and she has quite a few videos on making different types of kimchi. And a lot of them is where you take the cabbage and you cut it in half and salt it, let it wilt, and then you rinse it off. And then you would do something similar with the sweet rice and the pepper, and you pack it in there, and that's kind of a traditional way they would do it, but it's a lot of work, a lot more work. This was enough work. This is the easy way. No rinsing, all that, and it comes out good every time. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. It takes a little effort to make all these videos, stop and set up the camera, but it's fun. So I hope it helps somebody out. Let me know how your kimchi turns out if you make any. Oh, here's it with the lid on it. I don't know if I mentioned, good thing is to label it. This is the label from last year. So it's October 28th today, and you can see this batch I made last year was October 6th. So I'm kind of late making it, and it's good to put the label on. Don't forget that. take this old one off and relabel it. And finally, I thought I should do the final accounting for anybody who's interested. Here it is. We have 3, that's almost 8 pounds, 8.5. I'm just doing this roughly. And there's another 5 pounds of cabbage, and another 5 pounds of pak choy, and 7 pounds of radish. And there's all the salt ratios I used. So I don't know how much this would cost. It's awful heavy. That's quite a few pounds. And if you bought all this in the small jars they sell in the store, what, $8-10 for a jar of kimchi, which probably isn't as good as this. I don't know how many jars are in there, but it's a lot. So I guess it's worth a lot of money. It was worth my time making it too.